So returning to this, these four phases, that first phase that man went through was a 33-year spell. And that was from 1849 to 1882. And now there's a lot of things that happened. This was the spiritualism, the manifestation of spirits, the learning that indeed life goes on, and we're communicating with the spirits of the dead and all that kind of stuff. But the important point that I'm bringing this up in relationship to that house, that white room of Eastlight, is that during this first phase, the angels of Jehovah came, and they illuminated that house for man. From the outside, they illuminated that house. And so, for 33 years, they had that illuminated. And then, they departed, stepped back from it, and said, okay, now you've experienced it, and it's up to you to sustain it. Okay, now here's the WASPI, here's how you do it. Here's the WASPI, which came at the tail end, the very last end of that 33-year spell. And here's how you can sustain that house. And of course, but at that time, now when the angels of Jehovah, when Cosman came, they did not remove the angels that were on the plateau of the earth. All those billions and billions and billions. And they just, they didn't. They left them there on purpose so that man could understand that, well, as it says in WASPI, when it says that, you know, you're going to do evil, you're going to suffer hell.
Sorry, they didn't remove who? What? When
the Druzyas.
Right, okay.
Right, and the evildoers amongst the spirits on the face of the earth, because they wanted man, the mortal man, to understand that it really was true, that as you sow, so shall you reap. And because of the presence of all this evil around in these spirits, they caused that reaping to be quickened, so to speak. And because of the presence of the angels of Jehovah, they also caused the goodness to be quickened to a certain extent too. So, so they were left on the earth for the season. Now that was the second season, the second phase, the second step, and that lasted a long time. That lasted long enough for the Druzyas to think. Well, let me tell you about the first, with the Druzyas. When I say the Druzyas, I'm actually referring to the Brotherhood of Hak. Now back during that time, they worked together to create evil. And collectively they were called the Brotherhood of Hak. Just like you have, you know, armies that says, you know, one nation will say, well, I'll get together with you and we'll, you know, clobber this guy over here. And they had allies and treaties and cross treaties and all that. Well, all that stuff was going on up there with the Brotherhood of Hak and all that. Well, the Brotherhood of Hak, because they were here for so long, because how long did that last? That lasted from 1882 all the way to 2001. What happened in 2001 is that the light of the tree of Cosman descended and created Most Holy Cosman Day, and created the tree of light, the Cosman tree of light. And that's been written about on our site, so I won't go into it here. But essentially what happened after that then is that the Druzyas got removed. And so, but during that long period, from 1882 to 2001, they were basically in charge of the lower heavens. I mean, Jehovah's angels had presence there and stuff like that, but everyone was hard pressed to sort of serve the all one, you know, the perfection, the source, the creator, Jehovah. And because they had been there for so long, and they didn't get removed, and so they started growing confident, overconfident. And essentially they let down their guard and didn't resist. Well, they didn't know it was coming. And they didn't realize they were going to be removed. They thought they had basically won against Jehovah, and Jehovah is God. And so it came as a complete shock to them, surprised them. And this is why in Olaspi it says that, we're not telling you what Holy Cosmin Day is about, because if they told you, then that would give wind to the Brotherhood of Hack, who then would have been prepared and set up all these blockages and so forth. And besides which, God had learned his lesson from back at the time of Columbo, when Loyamung, the false Christ, had sent in emissaries to find out who would come to God, Son of Jehovah, to his kingdom. And then he found out about God's plan for Gautama here, for America, to establish a republic and all that stuff. And so, and that came through at an unguarded moment by one of the people who live up there, not realizing, that they should have kept quiet about it, so they accidentally spilled the beans. But so God was making doubly sure that was not going to happen this time. They did not put that in Olaspi. They told us about Holy Cosmin Day, but they didn't say a word what it was about. And that's why they didn't say a word that it was about. Well, what happened then is that with the removal of the Druzhas, that left man on his own. That left him without, without the guidance anyway of the Brotherhood of Hack, because the Brotherhood of Hack had been running things essentially. Because people can say, well, they look out and they say, well, yes, there's a lot of evil in the world. Yes, that's right, and there was, and that was driven essentially by the Brotherhood of Hack through their minions and all that stuff. But after the removal of the Brotherhood of Hack and the Druzhas, the man was left on his own. But the momentum that he had built up, that was built up over that time, then man himself became responsible for it, rather than the Druzhas prodding him on and inspiring him on. He became responsible. Man became responsible for carrying the load himself, essentially, because that's what's required in this Cosmin era, for man to become a part of the building, and not to be led to there like a child. No, but you present the options before him. You present him what visions, and you present that which can be seen, and you leave it up to him to decide. That's what Cosmin's about. So, well, in part. Anyway, and so but that's a different story, because we'll get to that in a moment. But getting back to this house that we're talking about, this East House of Light. So during that first spell, when the angels manifested on the man and everything like that, this inner house was lit up on the outside. But when the angels stepped back after 33 years, basically man just kind of fell to his beast, hearkening to his beast, and more or less neglected his house. But basically it turned dark, and he had to learn to reconstruct it in light. But he was supposed to reconstruct it in light. He had to reconstruct it in light, and that was his charge, to be able to do so, because that way no one could take that away from him once he established it. But he had to build it first. And of course that's built through good works done to others, and then serving Jehovah, and following his discipline, doing his discipline.